Hey, everybody, we are back. Ooh, I am redlining. All right, let me take it down a notch before I bring it back up. Guys, Big Fish is back. Midwest Mythos is back. The hiatus is done. I know last week I said I was on the tail end of it, but guess what? We finally here. We back better than ever. And I told y'all that I had a very special guest lined up, and I even told you who it was. So I'm glad he didn't make a liar out of me, because tonight I got my brother Doc Brown from the Prometheus Lens podcast on. Guys, we're going to have some fun tonight. You never know how it's going to go when me and Doc are together. And with that being said, guys, thank you so much for bearing with me this last month. I apologize one final time for it, but I promise you guys it was worth it. The thanks coming. You can't even begin to believe what's going to happen. And I know God's going to take it wherever he wants it, and great things are going to come out of it. But with that being said, I'm going to hit everything else at the end. Doc, brother, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good, brother. Thank you for having me back.
Oh, anytime.
Don't worry about the hiatuses, man. Life is first. Until what we do here pays the bills, we got to take care of the home front first, man. I'm sure everybody understands.
Oh yeah, and it ain't been easy. It's been paycheck to paycheck, but we're I worked enough overtime that we can our heads above water again, and I'm ready to be back doing this. Family's good. I couldn't be more blessed.
Yeah, man. Keep the wolves at bay. Which you've got some reps in with me, which I deleted them because we were trying to figure it out. But working on a new live platform, going to start doing some lives on my end, and you were nice enough to come out with me 2 or 3 times and try to iron the kinks out of that system. That was a lot of fun.
It was, and you got a couple highlights that may or may not see the light of day. Whenever if the one we're talking about with me dancing ever comes out, I guess I'll say it here. I mean, if you guys can this is holding you now you do got to post it. If you guys can get the Prometheus Lens podcast to 10K followers, I will do the truffle shuffle for y'all. Y'all saw a little bit of it, but if you can get Doc to 10K, we're going to have some fun. I'll even do it live if you want.
Yeah, that day we were messing with my soundboard and all my little sound bites and stuff, and I had Conway Twitty lay you down. When I started playing, he had like this button-up shirt on, had a little bit, just a little bit of chest hair showing. He started pulling at that thing and dancing with the music, and we even had some ladies in the chat be like, "Oh, now we got to repent."
Man, that was a lot of fun, man. I'm glad we were able to get all the kinks that we're aware of figured out. That first time, everybody got to just see me mime for about an hour. And
yeah,
I know it was driving some of them crazy because they'll never know what we were talking about from my perspective.
now one dude I thought was funny. Remember, he said, "Man, I wished I could hear what he's saying because it looks very enticing."
It was all right, have you tried getting customer service on the line yet?
Yeah, and Rabbit texted me, and Steven from Biblical Hitmen calling and texting us, "Hey, check your outputs. Check this, check that."
We already did. Oh man, but it was fun, man, and I can't wait to see what comes out of those lives, because if they're half as fun as the little test streams that we did, man, that's gonna be real good.
Yeah. A lot of my other shows, they're like deep dives and more serious, but my lives are going to be kind of, we're going to take some deep dives and have some interesting guests, I'm sure, but that one's definitely going to be a lot more laid back and fun. That's the hopes anyway.
Everybody gets to see the side of Doc that I know. I'm not saying he's a completely different person on the mic, but whenever we get together, man, I'm laughing 95% of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. The audience, they get the more polished me.
And I know this was weeks ago. We had a great time down at Cave City. That was the nicest. I've stayed in like $1,500 for 2 night Airbnbs, and that was the nicest Airbnb I have ever stayed in. And
Oh yeah, I loved it.
uh, I wouldn't mind going back down there just to explore the national park sometime.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'd love to go back up there and take the time to see the caves and that Stonehenge and stuff up there. Uh, but yeah, that little place we got. I mean, we got it for the weekend. Three of us chipped in, and I mean, hell, it wouldn't like $200 or something like that, 200 or $300.
Yeah, if that.
So, and had a really bomb fire pit back there, man. They had all the little stone pebbles laid out, and the nice wooden chairs that leaned back, and uh, the risen pit, and they even had like these little, what do you call those little
Fa-
twinkle lights up?
Fairy lights.
Yeah, and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool.
It was a good time. Had some good company too. T Carp came out and hung out with us one of the nights. Man, that dude, I know everybody knows him for Bigfoot, but man, he can. We didn't even talk about Bigfoot for more than what 30 seconds. He's got some stories, just stories.
Yeah, we talked a lot about hunting and fishing and country boy stuff.
Oh yeah. So I know going into the night, we really don't got a game plan, but you off air, you did bring up something that honestly I've wanted to talk about for a little bit, but it's one of those things that keep on getting pushed to the back of my mind until hey, you said it, and then I'm sitting there thinking, I was like, oh, I was just reading something about this not too long ago. So why don't you let everybody know what that is that we'll be getting into this evening, at least for the first
Yeah,
part.
yeah. This was honestly in my infancy stage, of researching and discovering all this cool stuff. This was one of uh, the original ones that grabbed me. Of course, I tell everybody, Giants was my gateway drug into the fringy lens of the Bible. But it was shortly after that I got into Dr. Michael Heiser's work and reading his books. And one of the main things he talked about in Unseen Realm was the three rebellions and how those three things in our Bible are so grossly misunderstood that we miss the entire overall arching narrative of the Bible. And so, of course, you have the Garden of Eden incident, then you have the Tower of Babel, and then you have the Great Flood. And that Tower of Babel, man, that was something that totally blindsided me, and it has so much to do with the world that we live in now, and honestly, just it's the linchpin for the overall arching story of the Bible. And if you don't have this linchpin, there's so many things that are so open ended, and you have questions you can't figure it out. But once you look into it from this aspect that we're going to be looking at tonight through the supernatural lens, this is basically Game of Thrones, but in real life in the Bible. You have these rulers, these principalities, these sons of God, all battling amongst themselves for dominion of the earth. And it's right there in your Bible. It's just we look over it, or we don't have that ancient Jewish perspective and miss out on a lot of stuff.
Right, man. It it really is wild. And I was pondering on that this weekend, uh, when I was doing that worship night, and during the time of reflection, I went and stood out by a lake at my squatching spot because they ain't too far away. And I was really just thinking about that, and I was talking to my buddy, and because the kind of the underlying theme of the night was preparing for warfare against these principalities and stuff like that, and we were talking just about how different times throughout history and in the Bible they talk about it, but nobody talks about, hey, no, there's actually these things happening, and they're everywhere, not just the location that we're going to talk about today, or maybe a couple of locations that get brought up and stuff like that, but it's a very real thing that is still happening today.
Oh, yeah. And honestly, it leaves Christian believers of the faith ill equipped to, number one, defend their faith, but also to witness to others. Because a lot of times we hear from atheists or non-believers, they will use the situation or status of the world to try to debunk our faith. They'll say, well, if your God is real, then he's a shitty God. I don't want nothing to do with him. Look at all the war and the famine and little children being murdered and abortion and rape. And they just list all these, atrocities and say, well, if your God's real, he just sucks. So either he's not real or he is real and he sucks and I don't want nothing to do with him. And it's because they lack the proper perspective on this event known to us as the Tower of Babel. But it's retold once again out of Genesis that a lot of people just look over and miss because it's in one of those quote unquote boring books. Because you get into Leviticus and Deuteronomy, and a lot of these books are Levitical law. Do not do this, do not do that, or this one begot this, begot that, and lived 120 years and went to be with their ancestors. A lot of us just skip over that stuff, but in there, nestled in, is Deuteronomy 32 and verse 8. And what that is a retelling, but a more like deeper view of the Tower of Babel. Because in there it says, when we think of the Tower of Babel, we just think of Nimrod building this tall tower and he, busts up the languages and everybody spreads out. Well, surface level, that's true. But Deuteronomy 32 verse 8 says, not only were the tongues divided, it says that mankind was divided amongst the B'nai Ha Elohim, the sons of God. And every time that phrase is used in the Bible, it's talking about heavenly beings. These are not kings, these are heavenly kings. But in there, it says that they spread them out with the nations, and there's, according to what translation you read, but some say 70 and some say 72 nations. And then it says, but Yahweh says, but Jacob, Israel, is my allotted inheritance. So he pulls these people to the side and says, do what you want with all these other nations. They're yours to do with what you wish, but this group is mine. You can't touch them.
That explains a lot. I mean, and that's easy to miss. And I might save this for later, or I guess if I mention it now, if you look at the images and stuff of the Tower of Babel that they have, it's kind of like that spiral moving up and stuff like that. You see those all over the world. How people talk about pyramids and stuff like that. There's pyramids on every continent. Well, the Tower of Babel, if it's not things nowadays, the ziggurats, not exactly how it's depicted in pictures, but we don't have a picture of the Tower of Babel. We just have artist renditions of what people think it is. But if you look at the ziggurats in Ethiopia and stuff like that, or you look at Angkor Wat, it's like they're almost trying to replicate what they were doing on their own before God split everybody into all the different nations. So I mean, just the architecture of these ziggurats is some evidence that, in my eyes, evidence that backs up Deuteronomy right there.
Oh yeah, 100%. And another thing too is these were artificial mountains, basically. Mm-hmm. They were artificial high places because the ancients, thought the higher you went up into the air, the closer you were to the gods. And you have this whole divine council worldview that the ancient readers had. And people, I guess a good example I could use is Olympus. You look at Olympus, Zeus was the head god, but he had other gods that was in his council that helped him, pass out judgment, helped him rule over the people, or he deliberated with them to make decisions and stuff like that. Well, that's a worldwide thing, but because when you go into the Middle East, you have Baal and El. They reign from mountains, and they have 70 sons that rule with him. That's the divine council, and they're imitating this from Yahweh and the Bible, because that Bible, if you read it with the right contexts and look into the original languages, this is a view that they had, because they talk about God's heavenly counsel. In Genesis, it says, "Let us make man in our image." That's plural language. The us and the our is not the Trinity in my belief. I was taught that, but once I had this divine counsel worldview, I was like, I believe that's the divine counsel that he's talking to, the lowercase g gods, because when you go to Job, I think that's the kind of the proof text there, because it says that they were all meeting together and everything, and then Job starts questioning God, and God finally puts him in his place, and he says, "Where were you when I hung the stars? Where were you when I laid the foundations? Can you grab the Leviathan by his nostril and toy with him like a plaything?" And he says, when the sons of God, the B'nai Ha Elohim, sang for joy at the sight of creation. So that shows you they were there and witnessed creation. So I think that is the us and the our that we have here. And that us and our is these B'nai Ha Elohim that we're talking about today at the Tower of Babel. This same divine council, his sons rebelled. They kept coming down to humanity. In Genesis 6, they were breeding with the daughters of men, meddling in the affairs, and then they started worshiping them. And they got addicted to it. They loved it, and they wanted to rule over the people. And they kept chasing after all these strange gods anyway. So God just finally says, "Okay, I'm going to give you what you want.
Mm-hmm.
You people keep chasing after all these other gods thinking that they're going to be good to you. I'm going to let you have what you want, but you're not going to like it." And then at the same time, my sons, you think that you can have the big boy pants now and rule these nations and do like I do. I'm going to let you have the job and let you see, how bad it is. And I think it's Psalms 82 or 89. I can't remember. It's one of those two. But it says, "How long will you rule unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? You desire to live the eternal life, but you shall die and fall like any prince." So he's talking to those rebellious sons of God from the Tower of Babel that were ruling unjustly.
Wow.
And I got some notes here, and this goes back, man, to like my Dig Bible podcast days, to show you guys biblically that what I'm saying is valid, and this is what they believed, because I could easily just be making this stuff up and pulling it out of my back pocket, and just throwing a few random verses at you that you're more than likely not even going to look up anyway. So I wanted to go through these notes and kind of show you that what I'm saying is just not crap I'm making up, and it's not something that a few fringy people believes. No, this is scholarly work that, the ancient Jewish people, the ones who wrote this text, this is what they believed. But let's see, I got here, it says Nimrod built the Tower of Babel, and this is in Genesis chapter 10, verse 8. To the Greeks, he was Nimrod or Nibros instead of Nimrod. And he was aligned with the Titans who warred against the gods. Some believe he appears as Nemart in Egyptian documents. Let's see. His name in Hebrew means the rebel. He was known as Gilgamesh in the Sumerian epics, most believe. He was told to be 2/3 God, and that equals 0.666%, coincidentally, I'm sure. And he was depicted as a giant. One sculpture has him so big that he's holding a fully grown lion with a full mane under his arm, like it's a little kitty cat. But Nimrod was venerated, a god, as Ninurta. He was also known as Kronos to the Greeks, the Horned. And I got that from The Guardians of Gobekli by Aaron Judkins. We were talking about him just pre-roll.
Mm-hmm.
But he was also called Enmerkar in the Sumerian kings list. And it says that he lived 215 years, built the Tower of Babel, while Abraham was living in the mountains with Noah, per the book of Jasher. And Merker means the hunter. In this very passage, Genesis chapter 10, verse 8, it refers to him as the mighty, the Gibor hunter, the same word used to describe the Nephilim giants, the Gibor, the Giborim. But this Sumerian kings list also describes the unholy trinity of Semiramis, which is a Nana, the moon goddess, and in Markar, Nimrod, has a child named Tammuz. And this is the goat king, aka Pan to the Greeks, and Enkidu in the Epic of Gilgamesh, ultimately the Baphomet. But he's part god, part man, reared by Nimrod, born by Enki. Nimrod and Inanna done some kind of Celtic sex rite where Enki impregnated his wife. And the two of them have an actual son, and his name was Mardun. It sounds an awful lot like Marduk. Some believe that this was Nimrod and Semiramis deifying their dead child. But we also have historical evidence, I think, alluding to this guy, because archaeologists found these stone tablets and they called them the letters to the Lord Arata. And Arata is the Ararat Mountains where the boat supposedly landed. And in these texts, it's like a correspondence back and forth. And this king in Merkar says that he's building this great tower. And he's building this great tower so Inanna will embrace him, have sex with him there. And he's requesting this Lord Arata from Mount Ararat to help him construct this temple. That he was like this, great architect, and he needed his wisdom and he needed some of his materials to help build this tower. And a lot of people suggest that this is actually Noah, that he was the Lord of Arata. And that's why Nimrod was reaching out to him, because he was a great architect. Him and his family built the ark that saved all of humanity. And he was the only one alive that still had that pre-flood knowledge. So I thought that was pretty cool and telling. You ever heard of that?
No, I've never heard of, dude. I've probably in the last minute, I've opened up about 8 Google tabs on the side. Like, I've heard, I've read the story of Babel, but I haven't done like the work that I haven't put the work that you have in, and I'm just blown away. Now, one thing I want to ask, because in my mind, it set off a little fuse in there to a section of my mind that's been a memory popped up, an idea. So Nimrod and Inanna, is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
You said they were to conceive at the top of the tower when it was completed?
Yeah, the way that story goes in the letters to Lord Arata, it was in Merkar. But in Markar, a lot of people believes is Nimrod, because he is known as the great builder and he was known as the mighty hunter.
Yeah.
All these things that aligns perfectly with Nimrod.
So the one thing I can think of, and this could be totally different, and this is like a really big side tangent that my buddy my buddy Shane Jones from Inquiries of Reality and Oren from Bizarre Encounters. I mean, they both host Bizarre Encounters, but they went on this whole deep dive on Jack Parsons and you know, the whole occultic side of like the rocket project and stuff like that NASA eventually became to be NASA. And during that, they were building this structure out in the desert where they were going to perform sex magic to try to bring in a the moon child, if I'm getting this, the moon child, to basically usher in a how I understood it, basically a new ruler, like antichrist archetype, not necessarily the antichrist, but somebody on that of the same archetype of the antichrist to usher in a new era and stuff like that. So when you were saying that, I could be completely off, but that's what came up was that.
Yeah, and it was a nana. So yes, same thing going on. Nothing news under the sun, as Solomon says.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess in a way, while building their rock, I mean, same goal, the Tower of
It's a
Babel,
big phallic symbol. Yeah,
and they're trying to reach the heavens. So what do rockets do? Supposedly reach the heavens,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, 100%. Excuse me. But I was going to give you just that little bit of background on Nimrod there and the historical stuff kind of tied to it. But as far as the Deuteronomy 32 worldview, when you go to Genesis chapter 11, verses 7 through 9, describes the Tower of Babel event, which I'm sure everybody's aware of. We've kind of talked about it a little bit. But the forgotten / hidden gem describing the same event is Deuteronomy 32 and verse 8. It says, when the Most High gave to the nations their inheritances, when he divided mankind, he fixed the borders of the peoples according to the number of the sons of God. But the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob was his allotted heritage. So Genesis chapter 10 mentions 70 nations. This isn't a literal number. This is symbolic. When you look through scripture, 70 is listed many times, and it just means complete or whole, the whole, because you have so many people mentioned, like trying to think now, somebody I can't remember now, and there's 70 sons, and you have the 70 nations. It ain't saying this guy literally had 70 sons. No, he's saying all of his sons. So this 70 nations is all the nations. And I mentioned earlier the B'nai Ha Elohim. Every time that's used, that's describing heavenly beings. I even put in here that this was kind of like a modern day CERN, or Stargate, I believe.
Right.
They were, I think it wasn't a height thing, but it was basically, I think they were trying to open like a portal into the abyss and let the gods of the pre-flood world back out again. They wanted to return to the golden age when the gods walked amongst men. And so we know it just wasn't a tall building, because we have skyscrapers today and God's not intervened. So there was something more there. But the text I got here, it says the proof that the people held this view, as I mentioned earlier. When we go to 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 17, it says Naaman was healed, then requested 2 mule loads of earth from Israel because he wanted to serve the one true God of Israel. He wanted to take a piece of Israel back with him as sacred ground to worship on. So if you guys remember this story, this is this Roman soldier named Naaman, and he's sick. I can't remember what's wrong with him, but the prophet heals him. And he apparently went to all these other nations, all these other gods. Nobody could heal him. And this prophet of Yahweh heals him. and he's over the moon. He's excited and he's ecstatic, and he's like, I've went to all these other countries and searched out all these other gods. Nobody could heal me, but your God healed me. So I know your God is the one true God. And he asks for 2 mule loads of dirt. Why? Because they had this Deuteronomy 32 worldview. There was gods ruling over the other nations, and he had to go back home. Well, he wanted to take some of the earth from Israel to lay out basically like in his garden to where he could sit and communicate with the God of Israel.
Right. That's something wild. And I mean, in a sense, we have experienced something very, similar to that. So, I mean, obviously things are a lot different since Christ has came and resurrected. So this God, we interact with God a lot differently than they did in those times. So like the holy ground was really limited. It's not like now where we can proclaim something as holy ground through the Spirit of God in us and the authority that He has given us through Christ. So, I mean, we, you know, we've experienced stuff does not like when you claim land for, for God, for Yahweh. And so I can't imagine like what these principalities and stuff were doing in this time. Like this man wants the land that is at this time holy ground. What he's going through, that he wants to have it shipped here. Obviously, like you said, he wants to be able to properly worship to Yahweh, but the the fact that he's going to have people bring these over, just in my mind, shows like the the grand significance of holy ground.
Well,
And
yeah, and it is a Game of Thrones too, and you can imagine these sons of God, these principalities, probably wasn't too excited about this guy named Naaman going to be bringing part of Israel back into their territory, taking a piece of their territory.
because it ain't theirs no more.
Mm.
That,
And
that's
you see
awesome.
that again with Daniel. When you get into Daniel chapter 10, you have this prince of Persia.
Yes.
So it says that Daniel prays and fasts for 21 days for a vision to be explained to him. Finally, an angel shows up and he tells him that the prince of Persia withstood him for 21 days. And it wasn't until Michael, his prince, showed up that he was able to get free and speak to Daniel. But he tells him then he must return as the prince of Greece was on his way, and he must go and help Michael. So, what earthly prince do you know that can withstand an angel for 21 days?
I
It says Daniel was in captivity in hostile territory that was allotted to another sons of God from Babel, and these angels were fighting over their territory.
yeah, man, dude. That's awesome. And actually, I was kind of shocked a few weeks ago. My pastor actually gave a message on that. Like not in as much detail as that, as far as like the actual, you know, he didn't go super far as far as we're gonna go with it, but we were talking about the principalities and stuff like that, and I could see some of the people's faces like, I've never heard it kind of like that. What do you mean? What do you mean? There's battles and stuff going around us. What do you mean these things have authority? Don't we all have authority through Christ? Well,
Mm.
yes, we have authority through Christ, but we have to use that authority. It's not just something that magically happens. Like, oh, I believe in Jesus. I I'm safe from all this stuff. No, Christ came, gave us that authority, and we have to use it. He wants us to use it. Call upon His name. Man.
Yeah, I mean, you bring this stuff up, it throws some of your Christianese people for a loop. But one thing we learned too from that is, yeah, this is real. This is what they believed. And these sons of God were fighting the messengers of God because they were entering into their territory. They're like, no, you can't just walk up in my house and do what you want. No. So they started fighting. But we also learned that Michael is his prince. So this is the prince that was allotted to Israel. And when you go to Michael in Hebrew, that means who is like Yahweh. And there is no punctuation to that. A lot of people assume that it's a question, who is like Yahweh? Well, what if it's a statement? He is the one that is like Yahweh. Because what does he say in Deuteronomy? He said, Jacob, Israel is my allotted inheritance. Well, who gets inheritances? Sons do, right? Who's the son of God?
Christ.
But here in Daniel it says, but Michael, the one who is like Yahweh, is your prince.
So
I had a very enlightening conversation with
uh,
Doug Van Dorn a few years ago, and he makes a pretty good case, man, that this is Jesus before the incarnation.
this is I
Yeah.
I'm not, and I know you won't take this wrong way. Like, I'm not going to take that as 100% like truth at the moment because I haven't done my research and stuff into it. But that does make interesting. And then when it talks about in Revelation, Michael is basically gonna stomp Satan. It makes sense because to me, at least, it hasn't made sense to me why Christ is going to be the one battling the Antichrist and Michael is going to be the one fighting Satan. It can't Christ do both? I know he can. So I mean that's interesting. That's really
Yeah.
interesting.
I ain't
So
saying that. I mean, that's the 100% what it is, but I mean, it makes sense to me. And the way he described it, it's like that's basically like the warrior aspect of Christ. That was Christ before the incarnation, the one who is like Yahweh. Well, there's only one like Yahweh,
yeah,
and princes are the ones that get the inheritances.
it,
And Deuteronomy 32 says, Israel, Jacob is my allotted inheritance. And then Daniel says, Michael is your allotted prince.
if you
A lot of stuff lines up.
and well, if you want to take it
Could be
one,
wrong, but
yeah, I don't think it's going to be something that's you're going to be damned for. But if you want to take it one step further, let's bring it to the Game of Thrones, man. Who sits at the right hand of the king?
Mm.
The prince. Yes. And who is sitting
Yeah.
at the right hand of the throne of God right now?
Yeah. 100%. When he walked in the book of Revelation, which I think, he appears as a lamb that were slain. I think that is John being taken up into heaven and seeing the ascension of Christ. So as soon as he comes in at the right hand and takes the scroll. And everybody was crying, no one's worthy to open the scroll. Well, what is that scroll? I think that scroll is the land deed to the dominion of earth.
Right.
Because Paul tells us we traded the truth for a lie. We worshiped the created things instead of the creator. Adam was given dominion, but then we see Satan offering it to Jesus. He says, I'll bow down before me. All the kingdoms of the world will be yours. They are mine to give to whom I please. And Jesus didn't refute him. So somehow Satan got the dominion of earth because Adam traded the truth for a lie. And Christ had to come back and reclaim the dominion of earth and all of its inhabitants.
Oh yeah, because I mean, Satan is the prince of the sky, so I mean, this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it's all involved in this Deuteronomy 32 worldview. It's the Game of Thrones. You have all these different kingdoms, and they all have kings, and they're all fighting with each other, trying to take over each other's kingdom, and that's what it's all about, man. But another thing too, it points to this worldview was same book, Daniel, chapter 6, verse 10. There it says that Daniel faces towards Israel to pray. Well, why does he do that? Because it's in hopes that his prayers would be heard in hostile territory toward Israel. That was God's allotted portion. So he was in Babylon as a prisoner. He made sure when he prayed, he faced Israel. That way his prayers would go toward that God's land where God was. And so it shows you that that's what they believed. Another cool one, a lot of people don't look at it in this aspect, but when you look at it in the Deuteronomy 32 worldview, these sons of God and their dominions is Jude 9. Well, if you guys remember, Jude 9 is where Satan is fighting with the angel over the body of Moses. And Satan's saying, "Nah, he's mine. You can't have him." Why? Well, why? Because when you go through and you read Exodus, Moses never made it to the promised land, but he makes it to around the area of the valley of the shadow of death, Bashan, the land of the serpent. And he dies there and is buried. So Moses' body is in hostile territory. So therefore, Satan is laying claim to him, saying, "No, you can't have his body. He's buried on my land." Yeah, I mean, this stuff, it's all woven in if you just know where to look and how to look at it.
Well,
Ephesians 6:12. Oh, I'm sorry.
uh, go ahead, because what I'm going to say, I want to say it, but it is, I don't know. I'm just going to say it. If it gets taken off, I don't know. I'll have to figure out. So going back to when you said Daniel was facing Israel in hopes that they would hear his prayers in Holy Land. Well, what modern religion nowadays do you have to face a certain way to pray? And we know that is not of God. So, but it's facing a cube. What's underneath the cube? Why are they praying in this direction? I know why they're praying in the direction, because they want to be towards their holy spot. But if it's not from God, if it's not from Yahweh, who is it? We know who, but what's the significance of it? Because obviously, in my eyes, obviously there's a connection to Daniel. There's a significance of pointing and praying in the direction.
Well, yeah, because that ruler and principalities over that region, and that's who they're praying to. Same concept. In Ephesians 6:12, that's what I was going to say. It says, "For we battle not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, principalities, and spiritual wickedness in high places." That's what he's talking about there. It's
Right.
not human rulers. He's talking about these fallen sons of God who rule over the nations. And I believe they're still ruling over the nations today. And that's why you get the world in such crap that it's in. Now, don't get me wrong. I think when Christ paid the price, he defeated them. But by defeating them, he's basically opening the borders,
Right.
saying, yes, all these countries, rulers, principalities are still in effect. But now my borders are open to all. So you can revoke your citizenship from the dominion of these fallen sons of God and come get your green card into the kingdom of heaven. But it's up to you to file the paperwork and show up, Daddy.
Right. Well, yeah, just like when we're out in Appalachia, man. Going back to that, nothing happened in the place that I took the anointing oil and prayed over. Everything got real close, but nothing went there because I declared that for God. Whatever principalities in those areas were, they were pissed.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, it's wild, man. But I'm really, after everything the last month, I'm really glad that we're doing this right now, because this knowing this is just, it's like part of the armor of God, in a sense. Like, it's one of those weapons that people are not aware. We have the land treaty of Christ right here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We can claim what is rightfully ours.
Yeah.
It's, this is awesome, brother.
But going on too is like I talked about the defeating of the principalities. But I mean, they're still principalities. They still have nations. They're still ruling, but they've been defeated.
Right.
When you get to Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 8, it talks about he led a host of captives free. There, the rule was the boundaries were broken. And so you got to think of the people writing this, they were under Roman rule. Well, what did ancient armies, especially the Romans, do after they defeated a foe? They would ride through the city on horseback and have a long chain dragging behind them with all of their defeated kings and warriors with metal collars on, and drug them through the cities and showed everybody, hey, these are the big bad evil guys. These are the rulers. No, kind of parade them around like in a victory lap. I think that's what was happening there in Ephesians 4:8. And to kind of back that up, Mark, I think, touches on it, because you have these princes and their kingdoms behind their high walls and their armies and all this kind of stuff. Well, in Mark chapter 3, verse 27, Jesus is saying, basically, to plunder a strong man's house, you must first bind the strong man. So that was what was happening at the cross. He was binding these strong men, and now you can go and basically plunder their land and raid their houses and get your stuff back.
Man.
But one of the most beautiful things, I think, that this is something that's tied into this that everybody misses. After the Tower of Babel, what significant event happens? God says, Israel, Jacob is my allotted inheritance. Well, then what happens? Immediately after, Abraham is called out. He's called him out and made him a part of his nation. And what does he say to Abraham? Through your name, all nations shall be blessed. So he's saying, yeah, I divided up all these lands and the peoples against, with my sons. But my final game plan is through you. Through your name, all nations shall be blessed, because through your name, your lineage, the Messiah is going to come, shed his blood on the cross, and break down the walls and dominions of these rulers and principalities. So through your name, Abraham, all nations shall be blessed. I mean, it's beautiful.
It is, man. I got chills right now.
Yeah. And Psalms 82, I mentioned that earlier. How long will you rule unjustly, show partiality to the wicked? Numbers, this is really cool. You got to get in the weeds for this one, but when you get in there, dude, you're rewarded for it. Numbers chapter 29 and verse 12. I think God, even back then, was foreshadowing and pointing to the cross and the defeat of these sons of God and taking the dominion back. It's like a foreshadowing. He was telling them way back then, about the cross, and they just didn't know about it. Hindsight's always 2020. But here you have, it's called the Feast of Booths, or Sukkot. And actually, that's what's going on right now. But during this week, they are told to do many things. One of those was to sacrifice bulls. And bulls were often associated with the divine. Their horns were a symbol of authority. So keep that imagery in mind here. Think of that golden calf. Day one, they were told to sacrifice 13 bulls. And this is a week-long event, Sukkot. And so the second day, they're commanded to kill 12. The next day, 11. And one on down the line all week long. They kept adding to it. So when you add all those up, guess what number it comes to?
70.
70. Okay. So just like the 70 nations that were divided amongst the 70 sons of God, God was signaling to his people, even back then, that he was going to bring an end to their unjust rule over humanity and killing of the 70 bulls. And think about Jesus on the cross, David, another foreshadowing. What does he say? Talking about that event. The bulls of Bashan surround me. So these 70 sons of God in the ancient world, they were depicted with bulls and, these horns of authority. These sons of God were gathered around that cross and laughing and pointing, saying, now we've got you. And little did they know, like Paul said, if they would have known the outcome of the things that they were doing, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. And it's a perfect picture of the prodigal, or not the prodigal son, the good tenant. Because in that story, an owner has a piece of land. And what does he do? He gives dominion to these farmers to cultivate the land. But they agreed. He's like, I'll let you lord over this land, but come harvest time, I get the first fruits. And they agreed. Well, come harvest time, they didn't want to pay up. So he sent his messenger. What'd they do? They beat the messenger and sent him away. That's the prophets. He says he sent another messenger. They killed him. That was your two prophets, your two witnesses. And then he says, well, I will send my son. They will not harm my son. And the farmers say, we're going to kill the son. And we're going to show him that we mean business, and he's going to leave us alone. That's exactly what happened here. And it's about Deuteronomy 32, the Tower of Babel. God has the earth. He's the landowner. He gives dominion to his sons of God. But they had an agreement. What did the sons of God do? They rebelled. They negged on that agreement. And then when he sent his son to collect, they killed him.
Wow.
And people miss, too, the transfiguration. That's him putting the spiritual battle flag. He goes to Mount Hermon, the place where the angels came down, right? This is ground zero. And he transfigures on that mountain. It's like him throwing down the flag and saying, I'm coming for you. It's over. I'm coming. And what does it say that after this happens? That's when he sends out the apostles, right? Well, when you read that account, it says he sent out his 70. So from Mount Hermon, where the rebellion started, where El, that was his holy mountain, and his 70 sons, his divine council ruled. So he went into their home base where their divine council was and spit in their face and said, I'm going to send out my 70 against your 70, and we'll see who wins.
Wow. Wow.
So much more than a tall building, folks.
Yeah. I'm speechless.
Yeah. And what happens at Pentecost? The tongues of fire descend. And what happens? They're out there in the courtyard during this feast, and this is one of the feasts that all the nations have to come to. So you had many nations, many peoples, many tongues. And it says that while he's out there preaching and talking, that everyone understood. He was speaking in his language, but everyone, all the foreigners, knew exactly what he was saying. Why? Because this was a reversal of the Tower of Babel. For that split moment, they were back to one language to deliver the most important message that mankind is ever going to hear.
I'm gonna say it again. Wow.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I'm teary eyed talking about it.
Yeah. That's
So much more than just a stupid tall building.
I it it's beautiful. This is just one of the many, 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 many things in the Bible that all come back is God's reversal on what the enemy has done.
Yeah.
Oh, I-
And and the thing is too, he ties it all up in a pretty little bow for you in Revelation. And I'll
right.
hit you with these last few just to put a bow on it, because like I said, it's an overarching story throughout the entire Bible. And if you don't got that down, you miss the stuff that happened at Sukkot. You miss the significance of that Pentecost. You miss the significance of the Transfiguration. All this stuff is interwoven because it's all the same story. But when you get to Revelation, to validate that the rulers and principalities are now coming to an end. Revelation chapter 7, verse 9 through 10. What does it say there? It says, all nations. And you get to Revelation chapter 5, 9 through 10. What does it say again? All nations. When you get to Revelation chapter 2, verse 26, God promises that he will all rule with him. Once again, all the nations. In Revelation 15:3, all nations gathered together with him in the end, just as he promised. So it's a reversal of the Tower of Babel, and it's a return to Eden, to the family of God.
Wow. Man.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a beautiful story, and we're a part of it.
yes, we are. Oh, it's this this is this right here, brother, is so much confirmation for myself in and I know it's going to be confirmation for a lot of people out there too. And I've already talked about it, but man, like I feel like this break that I've been on, it's been a reflection of myself, and there's been a lot that has not been good that I've had to reflect on, and there's been a lot of things that I should have been doing and focusing more on that I hadn't, and everything that just keep. I was talking to my brother about it the other day, uh, and it's like God, He's got us all ready for different parts of this battle that's going on, has been going on, and is going to continue going on until the anointed day. And one of the things that's just been like on my heart for probably the last year, and I did an episode on it called Call to Arms, but like this a few months back, but this weekend it really hit me like I need to myself be getting prepared, but also God has put me in a position to be a leader for one of his armies. He's got, and this right here, it just reinforces why. And one of the tools that I have to inform people of is that land declaration, because in the area of the world that I'm in right now, like uh, a lot of churches and people not in churches that are just brothers and sisters in Christ have been talking about is there is a principality, there's a dominion in this area that is causing so much. And I talked about it on your show with the Lake Michigan Triangle, how I just said the whole basin of the Great Lake of Michigan is just, and you can even extend it to Ohio with Lake Erie and stuff like that. All along that is just evil, man. It's good, not good at all, and it's a bad, it's a battle that needs to be won. Like it's already won, but we have to just get in the motions. And everything that you said today is just fuel on that fire to keep on going. So, brother, I really, really appreciate you coming on and talking about this. I know we had no idea what we were going to get into
That's what I was
tonight.
about to say. It had to be the Holy Spirit because we had no idea what we were going to talk about. And pre-roll, I was just kind of going through some of my notes and stuff, and I'm like, man, what about the Tower of Babel?
Yeah, I had something about the crystal skulls and the Nazca lines and stuff pulled like that. I was like, oh, we could probably get something out of that, and I know he'll find something to talk about. But man, brother, this was beautiful.
Well, I pray whoever hears it is blessed and empowered by it. And if anything, uh, dig into your Bible, try to prove me wrong. Open up, blow that dust off that thing and open it up. It's a hell of a lot better story than what you've been told.
Do it, y'all. I know I'm gonna be doing it. I got my Google tabs pulled up and I got my Bible over behind me. Man, but I once again, Doc, you bringing it. This honestly is one of the best episodes I I have ever been part of, and I thank you for that. And I knew, I said it at the beginning. I know God has a direction for this show, and which like He's gonna do great things through it. And I didn't know He was gonna start off like this. I did not. And so I
Welcome back, Ryley.
thank you. I couldn't ask for anybody better than you to come off my hiatus with. And Doc, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
Hey man, I appreciate you having me on. And yeah, guys, if you're into the nerdy stuff of the Bible and history and alternative history, ancient lost civilizations, cryptids, all of those fun topics, but through a biblical lens, come check us out on the Hero's Journey Prometheus Lens podcast. Find us at prometheuslenspodcast.com and anywhere you can consume content. And same thing with the social medias.
You heard them. And remember, you get to 10K. Ooh, we're gonna get it. But guys, don't I didn't say at the beginning, probably because I'm not wearing mine. I lost all my hats. I gotta go on a hunt and find them. But don't forget to check out our friends over at the Soul Squatch. Doc's repping his. Awesome product, awesome people. Go check them out. I'm pretty sure they're running some deals right now. And they got some awesome new stuff coming out. And with that being said, if you or anybody you know would like to be a guest on the show, I don't care if you're a researcher, experiencer, or just somebody that wants to have a conversation, reach out to me at Midwest Mythos Podcast at outlook.com, or you can hit me up on the Instagram Midwest Mythos, or if you're feeling real fancy, hit that link tree down below, have a submit an encounter report. It ain't got to be an encounter. It just goes straight to my email if you don't want to type in that long old email. But guys, God bless each and every single one of you guys. And let's do this. Let's pick up our arms. Let's put our faith in Christ. And let's spread his word. I know last week's little episode thing, I told you everybody talk to somebody about Jesus this week. Well, guys, I'm asking you to do it again this week. And I'm probably going to ask you to do it every week from now on. because sometimes even just talking about it plants a seed in somebody's heart that who knows what the Lord will do with it. But God bless you guys. I'm so happy to be back, and I'll catch y'all next week. Big Fish out.